What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and yes, I might have indulged that intro a little bit. It is not breaking news, but today I am bringing you guys my new variant to my Arc Warlock build. You guys responded extremely positively to my Arc Titan build recently, and I thought it necessary to go back to my Warlock and see if I could tweak it to make it slightly better, and I believe that I have. This build is incredibly powerful. Certainly nothing I'm going to go through is going to be anything that's brand new or hasn't been talked about by hundreds of thousands of people by now, and yes, probably that many, because this is just an obscenely powerful build. Deal huge damage with your Warlock. Let's go. And oh, by the way, this was a non-surge activity. Here we go. So as you saw there, 14 million damage with our Warlock, and we're going to go through it. Certainly nothing I'm going to go over is anything that's brand new. I did make a build video on Chaos Reach before, but I did tweak it a bit and felt it necessary, since I just came out with that Titan build, to revisit this and go through it with you guys once again. So for our Stormcaller Warlock subclass, we're going with, of course, Chaos Reach. Still one of the best supers in the game and easy to obtain with this build. For our abilities, I'm going to go with the Healing Rift, the Burst Glide, Ball Lightning as opposed to Chain Lightning, and the Flashbang Grenade. Now, the Flashbang Grenade is still a favorite of mine. I like it because of its blinding explosions, and of course it stuns unstoppable champions, which isn't really the primary reason why I have this. It's also the base cooldown is 131, so with very little effort you can get that under 1 minute. For aspects, we're going to go, of course, with Electrostatic Mine. Defeating targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an Ionic Trace. Collecting an Ionic Trace makes you amplified. So you're going to be constantly amplified, and you're going to be constantly blinding, and you're going to be constantly jolting targets with this build. Next up is going to be Ionic Sentry. Defeat targets with kinetic or arc weapons or arc abilities. Charge up an arc turret that periodically chains lightning between nearby targets, granting a stack of bolt charge with each hit. Deploy the Ionic Sentry, blinding nearby targets on initial impact. So our goal is to constantly basically just be blinding and then jolting targets back to back to back to back. In doing so, we're going to be able to generate our super, and because we're going to be using a kinetic based damage weapon, we're also going to be able to spam Ionic Sentries on top of our super. These are going to be slightly tweaked to what I had previously in my other Warlock build, and slightly tweaked to what I had in my Titan build. First up is going to be Spark of Discharge. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace. Collecting an Ionic Trace grants you a stack of bolt charge. Minus 10 to strength, but again, our goal is to get as many Ionic Traces as possible so that we can give ourselves as many stacks of bolt charge as quickly as possible. Next up is going to be Spark of Frequency. Melee hits increase your equipped weapon's reload speed and stability for a short duration, while amplified, the effects are increased and you gain increased stacks of bolt charge from all sources. So this should not be hard to achieve extra stacks of bolt charge, because we're going to be constantly amplified, which means it doesn't matter what weapon you're using. If you have a melee hit and you are amplified, everything that you're going to do from thereafter is going to give you increased stacks of bolt charge. So it doesn't matter if whatever weapon's in your hand, or if you throw out your Flashbang Grenade, or if you throw out your Ionic Sentry, it all increases your stacks of bolt charge coming back to you. Next up is going to be Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target or defeating a target with bolt charge creates an Ionic Trace. Of course, the goal is to give ourselves as many Ionic Traces as possible. Last but not least is Spark of Resistance. Now this one I do go back and forth with, and I'll go over that here in a second. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. Plus 10 to strength, and I think the plus 10 to strength in this particular build gives it the edge. But for those saying, well, is this the best that you can do? Are you really that worried about health? Well, yes, I am worried about health. However, the only other one that I like in this, and I might get some debate in the comments on this or in my Discord, is Spark of Momentum. Sliding over ammo bricks reloads your equipped weapon and grants you a small amount of bolt charge. Now, in that intro video that I showed you guys, I did not have this one equipped. So I still put out 14 mil damage, and there was still just a little something extra I could have done to give myself additional bolt charge. So is that really going to make the difference? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. I'd rather have the increased damage resistance, because when you're using your Chaos Reach, for example, yes, you're amplified and all that good stuff. However, you are still susceptible to taking damage while you are casting your super. You're also susceptible to taking damage thereafter when you're using Microcosm. So I think Spark of Resistance takes the cake here, but if you're just messing around and you want to see how many extra stacks of bolt charge, if you have that kind of time on your hands, that it can actually help with, and since you are using a special and heavy weapon that you're going to be generating bricks for, you may want to throw this on and just see if you notice a difference. I did when I tried it out, but depending on your style of play or how you like to move around the battlefield, you may not even remember to slide over ammo bricks. So that's why I'm saying this may help you gain additional amounts of bolt charge. Really nothing else is going to give you anything that's going to give you bolt charge or ionic traces or things like that other than what we already have. The only substitute to that would possibly be if you put Spark of Volts on, but that means you got to be using your finisher, and I don't really think that's going to be worth much to most people, simply because you're going to be putting out an insane amount of damage anyways. So what difference does it make? You're going to generate ionic traces anyways, so do you really need that extra stack of bolt charge? I don't think you do, which again is why I also think Spark of Momentum is not worth it as much as Spark of Resistance. But you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. For stat distribution, we're going to focus on Resilience, Discipline, and Strength, in that order. Also, having your recovery at a T4 is nice because you can throw down a Healing Rift immediately after your super ends and then lay into the enemies with your Microcosm or special ammo weapon. And you don't really need your intellect to be at a T4 or higher. That's just where the armor fell for me as far as the stat rolls. But I highly recommend, if you can only focus on 2 stats, put it into resilience, and then put it into discipline. The reason for it is because you want as many grenades as possible, because those will help you tremendously. For weapons, it's going to be very straightforward. We're going to roll with the Kvastov. The legendary version, I've got Demolitionist and Attrition Orbs thrown on for the choices here. You can pick really whatever you want, but I think Demo and Attrition Orbs makes the most sense. Of course, if you have one where it's enhanced here, that would be ideal. That means you can get more grenade energy and more progress towards your Orbs of Power without having to dump as much of the magazine into the targets as possible. The other reason that we're picking this over, say, the Multimac, which, again, if you've watched some of my previous videos, you've seen me kind of gush on the Multimac, is because of the dealer's choice. So you don't get penalized for using your kinetic damage weapon. The other reason is because you're already going to get ionic traces and bolt charges and things like that, as well as pairing with the artifact for kinetic weapon damage. So on top of that, when you do pull this out, not only will you receive those benefits, you also get a little bump back to your super. Is that enough to make the difference between that and what your exotic armor is going to be giving you? Probably not, but you are going to need to pick up special or heavy ammo at some point, and the best way to generate that is, of course, with your kinetic weapon. So Kvastov takes the cake. You could make an argument for the Multimac, but I think this one will work better, especially in general content. In dungeons and raids and things like that, this will still hold up well, but your main focus is to replenish everything that you lost when you went up against the boss. In the energy slot, we're going to be running with the Guardian Games Trace Rifle. If you don't have this one, you can go with the Iron Banner version, Warlord Spear, I believe it is called off the top of my head. I highly recommend jolting feedback as well as dynamic sway reduction. If nothing else, just jolting feedback, because of course your build plays completely into jolt, and this weapon by itself, or any trace rifle by itself, is going to be extremely easy to control from any kind of distance. And of course, Classic Contender gives you class ability energy, so all good benefits from using this weapon. In the heavy slot, we're going to, of course, go with Microcosm. Its main trait, Paracasual Imbuement. Final blows with this weapon grant super energy. The weapon gains bonus damage once your super expires. Because we are using a burst damage DPS super, we can pull this out as soon as the super ends and basically give ourselves a second super. Not literally, but in the form of weapon damage, we're going to be able to do that. And this is going to bonus because, of course, we're going to be jolting targets as we're using our super. So we are going to be able to take advantage of additional tick damage. For our helmet, I go back and forth on how I want to set this up, but because I have attrition orbs on my kinetic weapon, I'm going to need a harmonic siphon on my arc weapons. Here's where it gets kind of tricky. If you want to use a special ammo finder, that's fine. If you want to use ashes to assets, that's fine. If you want to help your teammates and put on power preservation, that's fine. Either way, I don't think you can go wrong. I probably wouldn't recommend dynamo, and hands-on doesn't really make sense, but you can give yourself additional super back if you want to put on ashes to assets. One could also make an argument for putting on a second heavy ammo finder. It just increases the amount of ammo gained per drop. But, if you don't find yourself running out of microcosm ammo, then all you really need to worry about is your trace rifle ammo. And believe me, you'll be wanting to use that fairly regularly. So that's why I have the special ammo finder on. Of course, round out your helmet with whatever general armor mod that you need. You should have room for basically all of them. For the gauntlets, go ahead and throw on a kinetic loader. The reason I say that this might be necessary is because we're not really going to benefit from anything else in this slot. You could drop this all together if you're not worried about your reload speed. Go ahead and throw on one firepower and one heavy-handed just in case you get some kills with those abilities, but your main goal is to create as much jolt and blind as possible. And of course, put on whatever general armor mod that you need. For the chest armor, go ahead and throw on one kinetic reserves. You could arguably bump this up to 2 if you want, but I don't really think it's necessary. You give yourself basically, 400 rounds of ammo with one kinetic reserve slot. Go ahead and throw on 2 elemental resistances and whatever general armor mod that you need. If you don't want to put on kinetic reserves, that's fine. Just make sure that you are picking up your ammo bricks because it goes fast, people. It just goes fast. Okay, Geomag Stabilizers, yet again making another build video here on the channel. Close enough. Damaging targets with Chaos Reach extends its duration. Collecting Ionic Traces grants you energy for Chaos Reach. Sprinting while near max bolt charge will grant stacks over time. So you get 3 different benefits basically from this. Collect the Ionic Traces. When you sprint, you get max bolt charge. And of course, your super cooldown is even better because when you damage opponents with Chaos Reach, you extend its duration. So Geomags, of course, nothing new here. Everybody that's tried Geomags over the last season here knows how powerful this leg armor is. So nothing I'm really saying is, jaw-dropping, brand new to anyone. There's tons of videos out there, tons of builds surrounded Geomag Stabilizers. There's tons of different theories on the best ways to capitalize on the main armor perk. And of course, there's a million different weapons that you can pair to help you generate as many Ionic Traces as possible. So I don't want anyone thinking like, oh, Durf, you're late to the show. Trust me, I know. But I did make another video where I was using, I believe, Thunderlord and not Microcosm. Once I switched over to Microcosm, which again, trace rifles finally were put into the meta by the artifact, I kind of went back and looked through some of my videos and realized we could do a little bit better damage, and why not try? So, as far as the mods go ahead and throw in an Absolution. I recommend 1 Invigoration and 1 Innervation. I also recommend maximizing this with an Artifice Armor slot, and of course, whatever general armor mod that you need. For the class item, go ahead and throw on Reaper. Go ahead and put on Bomber because you want your grenade back as fast as possible. Throw on Font of Restoration. You get plus 30 to a single orb pickup, so to your recovery. So for me, I go all the way up to a T7 from picking up 1 orb of power, and it just capitalizes from there. And whatever general armor mods that you need to round out your build. If you have to drop one of these from it, I guess theoretically you can drop Bomber. But I don't really think you're really going to hurt yourself too much because you can still put a 3 energy cost general armor mod on and get your abilities where you need them to be. For the artifact, I'm going to go through what you see on the screen here and just kind of quickly explain Certainly nothing new to anyone who has messed with the artifact when it comes to arc builds, but we're going to go with overload machine guns. Yes, I know I don't have an overload machine gun equipped, but in the event that I want to switch back out to Thunderlord for the additional lightning strikes, I always have this on. I have piercing sidearms. I know I don't have a sidearm on, but we could easily switch out our energy weapon for like the Division, for example, or the sidearm from the dungeon. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that I'm forgetting the name of it, but you guys know which one I'm talking about. And then of course overload trace rifles. In the second column, we're going to go with Beam Medic. The reason that Beam Medic makes an appearance here is because we're going to be spamming our energy trace rifle very frequently to help jolt targets and generate ionic traces. So as we're using it, we are going to heal ourselves and nearby allies, and if we damage more powerful combatants, of course the amount is increased. We're also going to throw on overclock and load. When you're amplified or a bolt charge, arc weapons gain increased handling and reload speed. Now, it doesn't really seem like that might be that important, but really what else are you going to use in this, column for this particular build? Exactly. So overclock and load it is, because we are going to be using our special ammo weapon kind of like an ad clear almost. In the third column, Dielectric, of course, is going to make an appearance once again. Make sure you boost this so that your arc debuff targets spawn in Orb Power. And Elemental Siphon, rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super. Create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. So, yes, it is. These are ionic traces. Boost this even further so when you pick up your elemental pickup, that's a lot of times saying the word pickup. It grants matching super energy when they are collected. So you can double down on not only your dealer's choice perk, but picking up additional ionic traces from kinetic and or energy weapons that match your super. In the fourth column, we've got Harsh Refraction. Trace rifles do more damage to targets affected by an elemental debuff, matching their elemental type. Of course, this applies to our trace rifles. I do have Horde Shuttle on in here, but I don't really need Horde Shuttle on in here. So I think for the time being, we are going to switch this out, and I'm going to explain. Gold from Lead. Picking up special ammo has the chance to grant heavy ammo. Again, don't even ask me why I had a Horde Shuttle on here. Probably just an oversight, so I apologize. But picking up special ammo has a chance to grant heavy ammo. That's going to be pivotal when you are picking up your special ammo rounds for your energy trace rifle. You might get some bonus back to your microcosm. Of course, flashover, when you gain maximum bolt charge, you become amplified and lightning bolts deal more damage. That's going to be the key here, and we're going to further double down on this as well. Elemental Supercharger. Defeating exhausted or severed targets with weapons that match your super element grants super energy. So this is just another way to double down on gaining additional super energy. You've got the Elemental Siphon. Now we're going to give your character the Elemental Supercharger. So use your trace rifle in your energy slot, whether that's the Iron Banner one or it's your Guardian Games one. Last but not least is going to be Limit Break. Since we are going to be amplified basically constantly and basically have bolt charge at any given time, casting a super while you are critically wounded or have an elemental buff matching your super element grants a period of increased super damage. So you get bonus super regen, you get bonus super damage, and on top of bonus super damage, your exotic gear of choice is going to extend the duration of your super. Any questions? What's not to love? But again, I digress. All of this stuff has been talked about 1,000 times, so nothing I'm saying is brand new, but if you didn't know, now you do. So one of the reasons that I think you should try this build is, hey, if you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you know that I did a build very similar to this not that long ago, but I don't think at the time that trace rifles were even out as far as the artifact goes. I think we were still waiting to see what was next. We were just taking advantage of the first stage 1, act 1 of the artifact. So if you haven't since revisited this build because for whatever reason you've just been doing other things, maybe it's time to give it a go again. By the way, that 14 mil damage that I did was on a non-surge week, which means add 25% to that damage. I don't really know where I would be, but let's just call it 16 or 17 million. That's pretty powerful for this build, and not that I'm doing anything different than anybody else, spamming my Chaos Reach. But, hey, this is my twist on it. You know, I made the mistake of not waiting until see if the artifact had trace rifles in it when I made the build initially, and I just, for whatever reason, just didn't bother to go back to it because I was doing other stuff, and I really liked some of the strand builds I came out with, but this thing still slaps. It seems like some of these supers that Warlock has just keep getting nerfed into the ground, even silent nerfs. And Chaos Reach is still holding strong. Now, when the new season comes out, when the new expansion comes out, who knows what's going to happen? We might be in for either a rude awakening or a pleasant surprise. But give this one a go. If you are running, the seasonal activities, if you are running dungeons, if you're running raids, if you're running Rite of the Nine stuff, either way, you can't go wrong with this build, and not one person is going to complain about seeing a Guardian spam their Chaos Reach, and that's why I think you should try this build. So if you did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who, for some reason, is not aware of a build like this or hasn't tried a build with these tweaks to it, feel free to share this video with them or send them my way. My goal, of course, is to help as many people as possible. I'll have a dim link in the description as well for those who want to quick copy and paste into their Guardian. Just give it a quick run. Also, if you guys are looking for a non-toxic gaming community, I highly recommend you check out my Discord. The link will be in the description. We got a lot of awesome people in there. We've got some folks that are starting to run events and do some teachings in there. It's growing very steadily. There's no toxicity, no drama, and it's just Guardians trying to help Guardians enjoy Destiny more. So if you guys have been looking for that non-toxic gaming community, please check out my Discord. It will not affect whether or not I keep making videos. I will keep putting videos out there, but I offer that as just a way to have some friends or pals to do Guardian stuff with around the galaxy, and also maybe have a community for when Edge of Fate drops. I mean, it's not that far away. You think about it, we're basically 45 days away, give or take. So anyways, I'm going to switch over to another highlight video, and yeah. All right, let's get it going. All right, so like I said before, nothing I'm going over is brand new or never been talked about before. Certainly on every streaming platform out there, there's builds, there's videos, there's streamers jaw-dropping over this style of play, and why not? This is still one of the most powerful supers in the game. You can get your super in virtually no time. You generate tons of orbs of power, huge area damage, as well as single target damage, and oh, by the way, you can use Microcosm, and Microcosm, of course, is still the GOAT of all trace rifles. So, realistically, had I waited longer to make this build initially, I probably would have incorporated Microcosm into the build. However, once the release of Limit Break as well as Act 3 for the artifacts came out, it just kind of went on the back burner. I mean, I was doing these other builds, I was messing with Titan, I was attempting to try to do Hunter builds that did this kind of damage, and I always kept thinking, like, man, I really need to come back to this Arc Warlock. And here we are. So hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully you like the edits that I made to this build over the initial version, which again is why I did it in the first place. Plus, I want to thank all you guys for your huge response for my Titan build. It was better than I thought possible, and I really hope that this video helps somebody out there love their Warlock even more. Let's go, guys. We only got 40 some days until the next expansion, so I will see you guys next time. Take care.